What's up, man? How you doing?
Dude, what's going on?
What is going
We're
on?
back at it.
Back, back in action. So today we did this whole series on strategic planning, strategy in the cybersecurity arena. So we should unpack that. We should get into strategic planning a little bit because we did a lot of work on it, and we might as well. I think it's worth talking about a little bit more and trying to beat up on our own ideas a little bit.
Yeah, man, we did I did a lot of thinking on that, as we were going through that series. So yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah. So, first question for you.
Oh,
Um, all right. So, and just for the audience's sake, tried something new with respect to like building out these questions. So, jumped on the Chat GPT train and had it act like a prominent management theorist, Peter Drucker in this case, to ask us questions about this particular topic. So, um, how can organizations balance the need for strong cybersecurity measures with the impact on employee productivity and user experience? And we talk about this particular concept a lot with user experience and all of that. So yeah, how do you balance the two things, security and UX?
well, I think we always talk about the idea that if there's no, if you're making your widgets and nobody's making widgets, you're gonna have all the security in the world because you're not gonna have a business anymore. And so, I think the usability and the business outcomes have to be, that has to be first, right? That has to be part the lead part of the strategy. Taking into account your user base, right? So if you're running a tech company, right, you may be able to do some more, forward leaning, cutting edge things
Hmm.
than, say somebody running, not saying any names, a old government agency that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, or a big enterprise, or whatever. Yeah, yeah. I think so. I really love. Are you familiar with the paved road concept
No,
from
man,
like
tell
Jason
me.
Chen?
Tell me about it.
Okay, so Jason Chen, or Chan, former security leader over at Netflix, he had this concept of like you create the paved road of how to get something into like production. In their case, they were building a lot of like application services and stuff. How do you get it into production as fast as humanly possible? And you kind of build security into that paved road, so that way, if you're on the paved road, you can drive faster. If you go off road, you don't drive as fast. It's like creating the autobahn for doing your work. And like I love all of that talk around just reducing cognitive load on people, making the safe thing to do the easy thing to do. All of that like secure by default talk, I think sort of works right into this question. And so I think it's absolutely paramount that we be thinking about the safe thing being being the default setting, being the easy thing to do, being the because like if you expect people to sort of drift into that default mode of operating, then you want them to drift into something that is not going to burn the whole organization or burn their team or what have you, burn your users.
Well, yeah, and I think, you don't, it's the same thing when we talk about developers, but like, it applies to finance folks or
Yeah.
HR, whoever. We want them thinking about the things that they're good at, right? To think about the things why why the company brought them on to begin with. Not
Absolutely.
not so much security, right? And I think in this day and age, we can't just expect folks to not think about it at all, but to the greatest extent possible, we need we should be baking that in. We should be trying to take care of all of that stuff for them so that they can crunch numbers and hire people and
Do their thing.
do all the fun stuff that everybody else does, while we do the fun stuff that we were hired for, which is not push security out, push push security off on everybody else.
Totally. Um, so building on that, so Peter Drucker is oftentimes quoted it as, and I don't know if it's actually attributed. Well, it's commonly attributed to him, but I don't know that he actually said it. That what gets measured gets done, or like if it's not measured, it's not done. That sort of mantra. So along that vein, how can organizations measure the success of their strategy? So you've put this strategy on paper, pulled it all together, started to communicate it out. What sort of KPIs, key performance indicators, or metrics, or what have you, should you really be focused on with respect to either continuously improving the things that are there running your organization, or these like new fancy shiny objects that you might be working on that are sort of pushing the needle?
Yeah. So, the first thing that comes up for me, um, so I mean, we talk about agile, we talk about OKRs. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of good ways to do it depending on what you're doing. Whether part of I'm sure part of a strategy um, has stuff like the things that need to be done to keep the trains running, and part of that strategy is stuff that we're pushing out for that that new and inventive things. Um, but I think and so I think you could probably adopt those methods. You know, I mean, I personally like the OKRs. I like the cadence. I like the freedom.
yeah,
Um, but I think the thing to look out for is that the pitfall, right? Because as you're moving through your strategy, you have to create that environment where folks aren't reporting, 10% this week, right? 10% next week, because it's the CISO strategy, and the CISO, that, that person really must know what they're talking about. And so, I have to push this thing forward, whether I think it's working or not, or whether I'm actually making progress or not. And to me, like that is the sign of, no matter what way you're measuring progress, that's the sign of, like, oh crap, like something's broken, like we need to dig into this. If people are, and it could even be something as small as, if a project is reporting some even number, 5% every week, yeah, 5%, 5%, 5, but there's there may be something there to dig into.
yeah. I think the choosing your specific metrics, like you're probably going to have some foundation of metrics that you might be reporting on regularly, like how your vulnerability management's doing, how your third party risk management,
Yeah,
or
percent
like take the
encrypting
capability and sort
attack.
of right, exactly. So, but as far as the strategic plan goes, I think it really depends on what thing you are doing. And I really like speed of delivery metrics. And then so like speed to market, and then consumption or usage metrics. And so I think there's such a tendency in our field to just get things deployed, but you don't really truly operationalize them. And if like it's that crossing the chasm, so to speak, in our field, that we get the new DLP tool stood up, the new CASB tool stood up, the new what's it the new widget, whatever it is, stood up, deployed, people are logging into it, but it just becomes shelfware. And so it's that usage that correlates so often to impact. And so I feel
Yes.
like there's you want to make sure that you're like deriving your your metrics that you're reporting on out of that impact, or out of that usage of whatever it is you're building. Maybe you're investing in platform technologies. Maybe it's deployment of a new tool. Maybe it's standing up a new team. So you're measuring the interactions that they have, or something along those lines. Um, and something else that I think is interesting to ponder here is, how do you balance the drive to quantify everything, basically have like quantitative metrics, versus more qualitative measures, like how are we doing? What is our culture like? How adaptable are we? That's sort of those sort of important and meta questions that might correlate to your strategy. So, I mean, because you may not want to be in a place where you're nerding out and measuring every little tiny thing. And so, how do you kind of balance the two and make them kind of live harmoniously with each other?
Yeah, man. Well, so the like putting metrics around culture, I think is difficult. Um, I, I think so like the need to get out and talk to folks is, it can't, I don't think it could be overstated, right? I think getting, having personal relationships with the people in your organization, um will give you um the spidey sense, right? Like, I think it'll give you the general idea. But, and so, having said that, like, there's no way for me to create a graph that says, my gut is telling me that our culture is awesome, right? Like, that's that's not really a thing. And so, and you can do, I think,
Like surveys
some
and stuff like that.
sentiment surveys, yeah, and things
Yeah.
like that. But, and depending on where they come from, I always like to take that stuff with a grain of salt, because I know folks don't aren't always as forthcoming with
Yep.
those.
Or the
People are afraid to
same
be
people
found out,
respond,
even though they're
respond.
anonymous. I mean, we work in we work in IT security. Like, I have a healthy a healthy
Skepticism.
skepticism of, yeah, this is not. I mean, if I really wanted to find things out, right? Like, this is what I used to do for a living. Like, I could find I could find out. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but, to me, that's the way to, like, some hard numbers from surveys, and then a lot of gut feeling, a lot of feeling from talking to people, and seeing how they are.
Yeah. Things like retrospectives,
Mhm.
you know, stuff like that. Super important.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good point, right? Because I think happy people are getting work done, right? If you're happy, you're getting stuff done, and so that there's a strong correlation to be built there. Uh, if the actual, the the actual numbers of work, of whatever the KPIs are, on that side, are going in the wrong direction, that
Yeah.
that could be a good indicator that your culture is maybe not is maybe failing people.
Something off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're coming up on time, one tip on bridging the gap with non IT, non security executives in developing and executing a strategy.
One tip: shut up and listen.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think try to walk a mile in their shoes. Even if like you're the posh executive, you're like take yourself out of the ivory tower and like walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, and then bring that back to your strategy. So
Yeah, so important. I
yeah,
love it.
awesome. So that is 15 minutes. So we're gonna call it a wrap at that. Thank you so much, everyone, for dialing into this. I guess this is episode 4 of Southside of
Wow,
Cyber podcast. All right, we're
4.
cruising.
We are
Um,
flying through these.
if you are enjoying this content and the content over at softsideofcyber.com, thank you, and strongly encourage you to like, comment, share. All of that stuff helps other people find it, and ultimately will help us just give back more effectively back into this community to help everyone become a more effective and impactful cybersecurity professional. So thank you so much, everyone. Have an awesome, awesome day.